The book says 50 mistakes you should know, and I want to say 50 mistakes you must know. In the second episode of this series, we will talk about the error or the mistake number 2, which is exchanging the queens and abandoning the attack. As we said, the first 8 mistakes are about exchanges. So whenever you are about to exchange queens or your opponent offered a queen exchange, you need to make sure that you don't have attack right now or a potential one later on. So this is super important. Either your opponent king is bad, is exposed, or it will be exposed because your attack is coming. So this is super important. Let's take the first example, which is kind of relevant to the first mistake, and then we move on. The white player is 1500 rated and black is 1200. And in this position, black made the mistake. This king actually is not safe, at least a bit less safe in comparison to this king. So here black has attacking chances if he or she saves the queen and played something like queen, for example, c4. After queen c4, the f4 pawn is under fire, and it's not easy to protect. For example, queen f3 back to protect. I can have this check, attacking on b2, checking the king, and if king c1, then the rook will join the attack via e8, rook e1 is coming, and this king can never be okay. So that's a very bad position for white. He is suffering because of his bad king, or her. That's why in the game, this move should not be played. And after queen e4 is played, actually, this king is converted from being in danger. Now this king actually is a super powerful, and it's helpful for white to attack or to improve and gain advantage. So queen takes e4 immediately, and after f takes e4, white played rook takes a6, and after rook takes a6, white got a slight advantage, and later on he or she won the game. Let's take it to another depth with the next example. Here, it's white to play. White has a +3 advantage, but you need to know what to do. Here, white is 1900 player, almost 2000, and black is 2100. And that's actually kind of a psychological trap. Whenever you are playing against someone who's higher rated, you tend to simplify the position. But actually, you make it easier for your opponent, more complicated for yourself. So here, this king is kind of exposed, but white has attacking chances. Why? Because we do have the h-file, we do have this pressure, and we can add one more element to the attack via f4. After f4, for example now, if black tried to counterattack our attack by a4, we need to calculate, by the way, here, not being kind of coward and not calculate anything, saying, no, I want to play it safe. Then don't play chess. Chess is based on calculation. So bishop e6 check, and after king g7, you move on and you play f5. Very strong attack. Yes, you go b3, but here in this position, I have too many ways to treat this. First of all, and the most common one, is to take by one pawn and push the other one, like a3, and this is an advantage for white. But even here in this position, the better one is a takes b3, gaining time, attacking the rook, and after ideas like, for example, rook e4, queen c2 is super strong. Now after queen c2, the rook is under fire, ideas like f6 is coming, ideas like f takes g6 is coming, and our attack is there. Our opponent's attack is not there. Maybe this check is super powerful as well. Instead of that, the 1900 player fell to the second mistake and gave up on his attacking chances and played bishop takes h5, which is completely a bad move. And why is that? I want to gain a pawn, exchange queens. But then your attack is gone and your advantage is gone. And after bishop takes h5, g takes h5, and the game went on after queen takes h5, queen takes h5, rook takes h5, to be equal out of, or instead of +3 for white, and rook f8 is coming. Rook f8 attacking on f3. Rook d to h1 attacking on h7. Now rook takes f3. There are some mating ideas. Rook takes h7. Sometimes this is an idea. It's not great, but sometimes this is an idea, like after rook f1, king takes h7. But in the game, rook f2 is played, and now this pawn is under fire. Rook takes c7, and simply rook c takes c2. And after that, white has to be accurate not to lose the game. And he was not, or she. g6 is played, and this is actually a bad move. Rook takes b2, king a1, rook a2, king b1, rook fb2, check, king c1, rook c2, king b1, rook b2, king c1. And now in this position, black missed the win and played rook g2, and instead rook e2 was winning. And the idea actually is just to exchange one of the rooks, like rook a1 is a threat and this is another. So after rook e2, rook e2, rook h7, you simply go rook e5. This pawn will be taken, and two connected passers in the rook endgames is always winning, as this pawn cannot be protected. So that's missed, and rook g2 is played, but after king b1, it was a draw, probably by repetition. Anyways, this is the second example. Let's take the third one. Here it's before that, I need to say something. One of the ways that Magnus mastered to be Magnus is, at the first of his career, he was studying books, and he was studying mainly classics. What do I mean by classics? The collection of games of the previous players, like for example, the best games of Bobby Fischer, the best games of 𝒏𝒔𝒉, and the most beneficial ones are the ones that commentated by the player himself. Like for example, the collection that commentated by Tal. For example, the games and life of Michael Tal. This is very important. This is going to improve your chess understanding, and this is one of the areas where Magnus is better than everybody in his in his category, in his level. So here in this position, it's a classic position. What do I mean by a classic position? The idea and the plan is a classical one, and it happens between 𝒏𝒔𝒕 and Capablanca. 𝒏𝒔𝒕 was white, I do believe, against the Capablanca in 1938, so almost 100 years earlier. So here in this position, white is offered the queens exchanged. But because he was not aware of this, and he did not ask himself, do I have a potential attacking chances? If he asked himself this question, then the answer is going to be yes, and this has to be the move, or any move to refuse the exchange. What is the idea and the classical idea here in this position? The classical idea is going to be like this. For example, knight b3, queen f2, g6 for example, and now the idea is e5 followed by f4, f5. That's a well-known idea in the Nimzo-Indian, and in the Queen's Gambit declined. Oh, do you have example of this? Yes, we do have example of this. In this channel, we talked about mastering the Queen's Gambit opening, and we talked about the Queen's Gambit declined, the Queen's Gambit accepted, the Slavs, King's Indian, Binoni, Binko. We talked about 7 important structures and 7 important defenses for black, and we are continuing. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel and check it out. So after f4, f5 is coming, and for example, if black plays f5 here, you have 2 options. Either you take e takes f6 followed by f5, which is an idea, and your attack is going on. For example, rook e1, rook e1, rook e8, you can take, and then rook e6, attacking the knight, and the g6 is under fire as well. And this position without the queens, black is okay, because this bishop actually is bad. And this is one of the ideas, probably not mentioned in the book, but whenever you have a bad piece, don't exchange queens. That gives more way and more responsibility for the bishop for the rest of the game to fight. And he's weak, he cannot fight. Why do you make it responsible? So let's go back. This is actually an idea, and a better idea than after f5 than taking and then f5. You could go even e6 now. And after knight takes, there is knight takes f5, very powerful idea. G takes, queen h4. Keep attacking as the rook is busy stopping the pawns, like ideas like, for example, rook f8 is sometimes met by e7, though computer says rook f3 is even stronger in this position, and it's almost decisive advantage for black. So after queen h4, for example, knight e4, still there's rook takes e4, very strong move. And after f takes, check, and another check, and f5. And the idea is f6, f7, very clean, very clear, very dangerous. Like if knight d2 attacking the rook, now we could simply go rook e1, and whenever we get the chance to lift the rook, then that's winning. f6 is coming, and that's also winning. So black is losing this game. Why? Because white refused to exchange queens because he knew some classics, or he estimated the position that he has some attacking potential chances. In the game, queen takes c4 is played, and he lost the advantage actually. Knight takes c4, attacking the bishop, bishop c1, a5, a4. b5 here was a great idea, like after b5 you take, I come with the rook and then take on b5, but a4 is played, d takes c4 is played, after f takes c4, rook a d8. This center actually is great, but guys, one of the ideas why the center is great and why it's advisable to have or to control is to give your pieces more freedom, and here you don't have that much of pieces, and, which I do believe the most important thing, is to restrict your opponent pieces. But here too many pieces are exchanged, so I don't need actually too many squares to maneuver with my pieces. So the center might be a weakness, not a strength. So after rook a d8, d5, knight d7 back, now some squares are weakened, rook f3, knight c5, and after rook c3, actually this position is slightly better for black, but at the end the game went on to be a draw. One more example, which is here. White to play, and here in this position, it was the opposite. And this is actually the beauty of this book. It's not only to do them, but also to avoid doing them. For example, here, do we have attacking chances? Like our opponent offered a queen's exchange. Does my opponent have attacking chances? The answer is yes. How? Like bishop a6, queen b6 is coming, and he does have a great attacking chances in this position. So now I need to exchange queens and going for queen takes d8. This is first. Second, whenever you have a better structure, here black has island, 2 islands, 3 pawn islands. Whenever you have a better pawn islands, that's a good indication to go for the endings. So the pawn structure plays a more important role in evaluating the position. So after queen d8, rook d8, for example, you go rook e1, and if you manage to exchange the bishops in a good way, in a good manner, then black might even lose the game. Black has a compensation of the bishop pair, but if you exchange one of the bishops, then that's a great position. For example, if you can manage to exchange the bishops and get back to the first rank, then you're doing actually great. Okay, so that did not happen, and queen h5 is played. And after queen h5, black has a great attacking chances after bishop a6, attacking here on h5, on f1, sorry. The point is, if you take on c5, I take on f1, and you cannot take the bishop because of this mate in 1. That's why here after bishop a6, the rook has to be moved. And now queen b6, attacking on f2 one more time. And if you defend, then e3, attacking one more time. And you cannot take with the bishop because of queen takes b2. So you have to take with the pawn, but the other rook is coming. And it's a very, very annoying position. Like, why didn't I just exchange queens and made my life easier? Because I did not ask myself that important question. Does my opponent have attacking chances? And black, actually, in this position, guys, white is 2200, black is almost 1900, and here in this position, again, black did not ask himself this question and offer a queen straight. Again, white, because he's kind of higher rated, says, no, I don't want to exchange queens. But did he ask himself that question? Do you have attacking chances? Or does my opponent have that? No, he did not ask that question, and he played queen h4. And after queen h4, actually, black found it. Bishop a6. Rook e1 and bishop d3, and this is just a great bishop here on d3. What can you do? Like knight d2 and then rook e8. Probably ideas like e3 is coming. Knight f1 trying to stop that. f5. This pawn majority has just started to move. And now queen g3, and now very strong move. Rook e6, best engine move. Now rook g6 is coming. Very strong, very dangerous. Attacking the queen, queen d7. The point is you cannot take here on f5 because rook f8 is super strong and there is a pressure here and rook g6 is coming. Probably rook g6 right away as well. So that's why after rook knight takes f5, sorry, is played, rook f5, queen g5, and now simply rook g6. After rook g6, the queen is under fire, trying some tricks like knight h6 check, but g takes h6. Yes, you take the bishop, but queen takes h3. And now mating nets or mating ideas are threatened. Bishop g5, queen g4, attacking the bishop, attacking on g2 as well, g3, a piece up, and soon after queen f4, rook a2, e1, h4, black is winning the game and white resigned actually. Why? Because he commit the mistake twice in one single game. So always before you offer a queen's trade, ask yourself, do I have attacking chances? If the answer is yes, avoid that offer. If your opponent offered you a queen's exchange, ask yourself, does your opponent or do I have the attacking chances? And in the meantime, whenever your opponent have an attacking chances or has one, try to offer queen's exchange, because now you are armed with this knowledge and you can see how many players just ignore this, doesn't know about this. So wait a second, I see you do have some attacking chances in 2 moves, in 3 moves, in 4 moves. My king is kind of weaker. Offer a queen's exchange and see how it goes, especially if you are higher rated. Don't give your opponent attacking chances if he's lower rated than you. Because if you are higher rated, eventually he will make mistakes and you will win. If the game is prolonged. I hope that makes sense. If you want to watch the series from the beginning, which I advise you to do so, you can find it there. And don't forget to subscribe, share to get everything whenever it's published. Thanks for watching. Have a nice one.